What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 280 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Hi.
Oh, I'm so good. Thanks. Joining us this week via Skype is the project manager and producer of essentially a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. The C team is Elyssa Grant.
Hello.
Elyssa, thank you
How you guys doing?
so much for coming
I'm
on.
great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Remember I said project manager? Project manager where? Project manager of Penny Arcade, and producer of the C Team. Elyssa, thanks so much. I am super excited.
Yeah.
We had, right? Isn't it? It's pretty good. We had the pleasure of meeting you at PAX East last March. It was in March this year. Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right.
It's crazy.
Last March in Boston. We were meeting up with Jeff, old friend of the show, no big deal. And then Jeff introduced us to you, and it was, oh my God, what's happening? Because they had just announced C Team like earlier that day, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
That's
remember.
right.
Like just and like we jumped the gun with having Jeff on. I was like, we're gonna have him on for like a pre-PAX extravaganza.
And then he's like, we have an announcement in 2 days.
Yeah, he's like,
oh.
You should have waited.
Yeah, it's a trip thinking it was that far back. Gosh.
Right? And then C Team gets announced, and it's like, what is this? And Jeff's like, you need to meet this person, Elyssa, because that's kind of her baby. And it went from there. So thank you so much for coming on. I have so many questions, and I kind of can't wait to talk about this. So C Team,
Yeah.
Your baby,
Yeah.
like, I guess we can start with the generic how. Like, because Acquisitions Incorporated, the D&D show that Penny Arcade's been running for years. There's also the live show. If you want to hear more about that, you can actually listen to Jeff talk about it on his previous episodes. Acquisitions Incorporated, it's like there's a spin-off called the C Team, which is streamed weekly on Twitch, on the Hyper RPG channel, which we're also going to get to. But how did this come to be? Like, what's the genesis of the C Team?
Yeah, so from what I understand, the brainstorming of this project started before I joined Penny Arcade. I joined Penny Arcade in January of this year, under the impression that I would be working on C Team and that this would be my biggest project. And so when I started, we had already been talking to Hyper RPG about this stream, and basically what we wanted a bite-sized piece of content for Acquisitions Incorporated fans, and the streaming was honestly the answer to this, right? We had a streaming initiative within the studio, and Acquisitions Incorporated is a well-loved brand, and we love it within the studio as well. So, of course, why not create this amazing content that not only were we passionate about, but we had other people, fans who were passionate about this as well. So we could kind of make this into a weekly thing. And that's kind of how it came to be. And it's honestly grown into something far greater than we ever imagined.
I briefly golfed at your term bite size because you're currently, I believe, up to 19 episodes and over 2 hours each episode, pretty much. And
Yeah.
that's not what I would consider bite size.
That is a production.
Well, yeah, and you're right in that I think that when I say bite-sized, this is one of those things that it almost creates bite-sized content all in itself. Just the overwhelming amount of fan content that's been made, and we even have other projects that are coming about that are even more so, just minutes of content for people to just jump in and experience the world, and that's exactly what we want to share with everyone is we want to share the Acquisitions Incorporated world.
And it's great for people who because we finally got to catch Ac Inc. live at PAX East, because we typically went on Friday, Saturday. This week we finally made it to a Sunday and caught the live show, and it was just it was every bit as as exhilarating as I needed it to be. When Chris rolled that one on the spell,
The first fail.
that drove him insane. Oh my God, because there's all that build. It was unbelievable. It's almost like the die was supposed to roll that way. It's just such a cool experience seeing it, and maybe people might not be able to catch that, especially the live stream. And there's only a couple of those live shows a year, and rewatching it might not be, people might be craving more.
I can kind of equate it to like going to a wrestling show and like your favorite guy comes out and then you jump up and you yell. It's like, yeah, John Cena. Being in the crowd for a green flame yell was pretty amazing.
It's what I
needed.
needed.
New experience. It's wild.
And now with C Team, it like people can tune in and it's live. It's every week. It's refreshing every single week. So people get this new content every week, and it's like, at least 2, sometimes up to 3 hours. I think. Does it go from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So Eastern, it is 6:30 to 9:30 p.m.
Yep.
Yeah, every Thursday. And that's kind of our goal was, the live stage performances. That's something that you can watch, right? And of course, there's a community built around it, obviously with the Green Flame, but the stream itself almost brings you into the game. We have our Shadow Council, and they actually have a say in what happens in the game. So it's almost a little bit more interactive than just the live show too.
Right. Because it has like the bits feature. Yeah, which
exactly.
Because I like to consider myself a Twitch veteran. I've been watching Twitch since it was remember Justin TV?
Justin TV.
Yep.
That's
what Twitch was before it was Twitch. It was called Justin TV.
Man.
And like I just remember watching this one Halo streamer. He was a pro player at the time. It wasn't like it was before like I'm a professional streamer was the thing.
Yeah.
And he like had a camera just pointed to his TV like as he played, and he would just play Halo, and that you could barely make out anything, but it was like I'm watching this guy that I like on this team play Halo.
What am I watching right now?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I can't remember where I was going. Oh yeah, so there's like the bits. Like and like I was saying, I consider myself a Twitch veteran, but I don't understand bits. I've even Googled what is bits. Like I don't, and you
what
guys,
bits?
and right, and you guys use them in a very interactive way on the show. If I understand this correctly, again, I don't get bits, but like because you have and you see on the screen continuously throughout the episode. Voting for your particular, it can get them abilities and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Using go ahead.
So to explain exactly, so we use bits as a way to bring our audience in and say, what you want matters, and if you want to help support our stream, we'd love that if you could support our stream. But by doing so, you can also help affect the game, right? And so not only are these are people who give us bits, basically allowing us to make this content, but they can also decide, let's look at this awesome ability that one of our C team members, let's look at, Tentacular Spectacular from Cthulhu and have something cool happen in the game, and he can use it when he wants, or even advantage or disadvantage with the DM and the players. And so we just thought it was a really good way to bring people in and feel like they're actually, making a difference. And so we have other ways of interaction too, and we have the poll. We have the poll that basically helps change the outcome of maybe what something is named, or maybe brings a different character in, anything, or even a magic item that might have an appearance and stuff. And we're still working on more interactions, but bits is like the biggest way of doing it because it makes people want to help support us, and it gives us kind of like this mutual relationship between the audience and ourselves,
Right. And it's one of those things. Excuse me, that was great. So with because you can also subscribe to Hyper RPG. Does that also benefit the show?
So we are actually in the works. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be putting out some new ways of, if you are a subscriber, that you get more benefits. And so that's constantly a discussion that we're having is, if you subscribe to our shows, what are the additional things that you get? And so we are excited about some of our new ideas, and we definitely want to bring more subscribers in because, that ultimately supports both us and Hyper RPG, and we're partners in this. So soon enough, you will be seeing some fun content.
That's rad. So
if anyone isn't sure what we're talking about right now, go find C Team on YouTube or on Twitch. You could watch past episodes and shows. And towards the beginning of the game, they'll be like, should they encounter these goblin things or these were-dog creatures? I saw one earlier today. I was like, oh, that's really neat that you could vote to affect that. Mm-hmm. And so like towards the beginning of the match, there would be like, the vote 1 or 2 to decide what they'll encounter, or as Elyssa said, the magical item. But then later on, there's like a counter for, you could send in the bits and choose one of the players, and whoever gets like 1,000 or 5,000 or 2,500, they'll get a bonus to their rolls or something like that. And I've seen something like that before, because I occasionally watch Kay Pike, who is a makeup artist and body painter, and so like her subscribers can like send in twisted balloon dogs, and then they add up, and when she fills up some kind of meter, then she gives out a random prize. So like there's all kinds of like systems matched into measuring, what these emojis
like incentives
get. Yeah. Yep. And so like just even if you just like check out like a few minutes of one of these episodes, like you'll get what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, and the poll runs for the first hour of every stream, so it kind of brings even new viewers in, and they're allowed, they're able to affect the storyline just as soon as they start watching. So that's pretty fun.
As far as the we can talk cast, but because C Team is like it's a spin-off of the Acquisitions Incorporated brand, same universe. And it features it's GM'd, whatever you want to call it, by Jerry from Penny Arcade, who also plays Omen in Acquisitions Incorporated. And then it features the players. There's Amy. Is it Amy Falcone? Is there an E at the end?
Falcone.
Falcone. Yeah, there it is. Butchered it. Amy Falcone, Ryan Hartman, Chris Straub, and Kate Welch as the players. How did this group of people all come together? Because like I know I remember seeing Amy in Strip Search back in the day. Chris, I've been following his work for a long time. In my opinion, one of the funniest people, just with that dry, like we saw him at the Movies with Mikey panel at PAX East last year, and that was one of the best experiences. Like how did this group of people come together to form this show?
Yeah, so I remember we were standing in an office. I think we were standing in Ryan's office at the whiteboard, and we were all talking about the cast that we want. So we were throwing out names, and we wanted it all to be local people, because we didn't want to have to worry about having some people in person and some people Skyping in. We just wanted it all to just be kind of in an intimate space, so we can all play D&D as though we're playing it in our basement, kind of sort of thing. And so we initially had Chris kind of already on the board because he plays Kithra Straub and he's already made some appearances. But one of the biggest discussions that we had was we wanted this to be representative of people who play D&D across the board. And so my initial initiative was, how can we have 2 female and 2 male players? And there are a lot of female D&D players that, we just don't see a big presence of females in the D&D space. But they exist for sure, right? So we wanted to be sure to have an even table, and we had an amazing roster of people. So Amy came up. We honestly reached out to them all at once, and we had backups just in case. But, people, because, Kate has her job at Amazon, and Amy has her job, and so like we were trying to work around everyone's schedules, but obviously during the day that could be a little rough since it's at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. So we initially reached out to everyone and said, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in? And just almost immediately everyone was just like, yes, we want to be a part of this. When do we start, kind of sort of thing. And then everyone rolled up their characters, and immediately they all jumped into a group together, and they were all, throwing ideas back and forth. So it was just like a very collaborative experience, and almost effortless when it came to putting together the group. They almost like became just, insta friends. So it was really neat to see. And I could go through each person and why they joined, but Ryan was very passionate about joining this, and he had only been a part of one other stream at Penny Arcade, and we had a big streaming initiative. So as soon as he said that he was super excited, we said, go for it. We'll have you on the stream, and then Amy and Kate were kind of already there, and it was just natural. You know what I mean?
Right. Like the stars aligning.
Exactly. It was weird. And like I said, like we had other people kind of lined up as if like we definitely want these people to be on the stream, but let's reach out to these people first, So yeah, it all just kind of worked out. And we do have guests, right? So that kind of helps us with being able to shake things up a bit.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on that, with the guests. And it's great because like this cast, even like you would have just assumed like these people all have been playing D&D for years, like they just have really good chemistry.
It's so natural.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very, very natural. And even with the guests, I remember Patrick Rothfuss, who plays Viari in the main Ack Inc. game, has made an appearance, and a couple other guest appearances. Like, how were those planned, or like was that like a schedule thing, and it's like a fill-in? Like, is there other and sub question, like, as far as guests in the future, like, can we expect to see more like new faces?
Yes, definitely. So we were talking about guests even before the C team started, and we thought, we have 4 people at the table, and we can easily slot in a 5th, and it would help, change the dynamics and maybe bring in new and interesting characters. And so we had Pat on, and that was basically scheduled, I think, a week and a half before he was on. It was kind of like, oh, Pat's in town. Can we have him on? Okay, sure. Let's make this happen. So at first I thought, well, he's going to be playing VR, and how can we make the level difference work out? And then I found out later that he and Kate had been talking, and he was just super excited to play the son of Rosie, who is Kate's character, and how he was going to be a bee stinger. And he came on the show, and it was just like they had the best rapport just immediately. And obviously they're friends, but like they were going back and forth as though they had rehearsed it, and they hadn't. It was amazing. And then it comes out that Rosie apparently has hundreds of kids walking around, and so our joke has become that every guest who's coming on the C team is going to be a bee stinger in some capacity.
Because Rosie's essentially a little old lady.
Yep.
Or
a monk, right?
A halfling.
Yeah.
Yep, a little old halfling monk. So yeah, and that's the joke, is that she's this, little badass package, who apparently has gotten around. And she obviously has a lot of adopted kids and stuff as well. And so it makes it easier for guests to come on and just kind of slot in just immediately and have that connection.
Right. And even there has been even guests as far as like the DM goes, a couple weeks ago with, in my opinion, one of the best named things. I'm a sucker for combined words. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that the Gymterlude was happening, which was already cause for excitement, big fans of both Mike and Jerry at Penny Arcade, and especially when Mike stepped in at PAX a couple years ago, when they were like all taking turns being DM.
His was so good.
Right? I mean, it was so funny. Like, especially like the rapport with him and Jerry, where he was like the answering machine. He was like, Jim is dead. So I was pretty pumped for that, and especially like just with the game that Mike put together with Wizard Cart, which like was surprisingly intricate. Like,
yeah.
Like with the, like you can do this. You all have special abilities. These abilities impact your character. Like I was actually like re-listening to the episode like at work today. Like when I was just had my headphones in, and it was such a like. It seems I want to rip it off. Like he should sell that.
In the comments, there was a few of can we please release Wizard Cart?
And that's the craziest thing. So, like, he told me about 2 weeks before we had him on, he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to put something together for my game. And I was like, okay, so just let me know what you need. If we need to do like an extra camera above the table, we can make that work. Like, just let me know what you need. And so he's like, yeah, I think I might need something. And then like the day before we had him on, he's like, yeah, so I just really wanted to play test this game. Can you come in early tomorrow and we can try it? And I was like, sure. So I come in and he pretty much unveils this board to me. Like, there's this brown blanket over it as I walk into his office, and he just like takes it off, and it's just like this beautiful, intricate game that was just, he was so nonchalant about it before. He's like, yeah, I made this thing. And it was gorgeous. So yeah, he's very talented, and we will have him on, sporadically throughout, maybe once every month or two, I think is what we're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool. So, and I know that we have had other thoughts of having other guest DMs on, but I think our main focus is having guest players on.
Right.
So, and the funny thing is that the week that Mike was DMing, Jerry was like, I'm really excited for Mike to be DMing this, but my week is just off, and I'm gonna miss DMing this week, and I can't handle not DMing this week. Like, I feel weird.
It's part of the routine now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Although he still got to do the intros, I mean, because how can you duplicate those?
Exactly.
But that was a lot of fun, and it was like it's like a deviation from like the main game, like where it's like they can just have fun, like the spells and the it was great. I loved it. So like, and it mixes it up. It keeps the variety there for people who are like, what is D&D? What is this? Oh, I didn't know you could do this with
Right.
D&D.
Yeah.
I thought you have to be a warrior and you pretend you're fighting pretend things, and that's it. And you drink Mountain Dew. But that's
encountered another pack of orclings.
Yeah, exactly.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in a dungeon. So
And there's a dragon.
Exactly. My the D&D game, the one D&D game that I ever ran, you fought dragons. That's how it was, and you were in a dungeon.
Did you do the starter set?
I had gotten because I used to work at a Barnes and Noble back in the day, and we had
Rad.
like some of the D&D kits. Like there was the one that came with the 3 dragons. It was the red, the blue, and the gold one.
Cool.
And it was like a mini thing, like a mini campaign, and I don't know, it was made by D&D.
Yeah.
And I remember like it had gone on clearance or something like that at one point, and so I snagged it, and like because I wanted the figures. Like I was like I want to run a game and I want to use these figures because like it came with 3 painted figures and they were big dragons. It was rad. So I just I used those in my game, and then I made the mistake of making them too weak. I was like, oh, I need to use wormlings. I obviously cannot use the bigger dragons because like dragons are super powerful. And I made the characters too strong. It was great, really great. And they just destroyed them literally in one turn. It was great. It was.
Are you serious?
It was so bad. I didn't realize that I gave everyone like 15 chances to attack in one turn. Because turns out, because I just wanted to do like a one shot with like set characters, and like I didn't realize how strong I had made these people, and like. I'm like, these guys are going to get wrecked. I even had like a contingency plan if they were getting destroyed. Like, oh my God, a friendly dragon swooped in and saved the day. And they didn't need it. It was just destruction.
For some reason I thought this was going to go the opposite direction. You're going to be like, yeah, it was just a TPK. It was the worst. It was over in 5 minutes. Nope.
We've been very fortunate with we've only had one major one major death in our group, but
Wow.
It was
pretty
me.
good.
It was, and it wasn't even like from an attack. It was a trap.
you got trapped real bad.
He died from a trap.
It wasn't exactly.
He like vanished.
We encountered a mind flare who infected a NPC's mind, a friendly, who was like kind of part of our team, and so we had to go into her mind to free her. And my character is a gnome rogue, and he's like, "Oh, sweet, a locked chest. I'm gonna open it and rob it." And so I open the chest, and my character explodes into a pile of gold coins.
What? A pile of gold coins.
Yep.
Okay, never
Yeah,
mind. That's
and-
actually kind of cool.
And we failed.
And so
we failed to save him.
my group's thing. What they had to do was just put the coins of me back in the chest. And so
We walked away.
They each take some and put them in their pockets and then leave. And like,
I was gonna say it would be kind of morbid if they went to town and just spent it all immediately.
Well, the thing is, we were still inside this girl's head because Mind Flayer psychic powers. And so once like they cured her sickness and revived her, they all, jumped out of her head because she was fine, and I wasn't there. So
I'm sorry, it's not funny.
That's amazing. Yeah,
that's
no,
so
this
good.
is very sad. I'm so sorry.
Well, I got to make a new character.
Yep. We have a new character with us that mysteriously joined up. So, but yes, where were we? We're talking about Jimterlude and how I wouldn't mind ripping that off. If he wanted to, release like a print and play, we would love to play test. But it's a lot of fun just having like that. It's like, what are they gonna do next week? Especially with stuff like the Jimterlude and with the guests and.
Can we talk about that?
Yes.
Like, I want to like, how much do you pitch ideas to them, or like, do they just come to you and say, "Here's what I plan on doing," and then you have to come up what might be the best way to film it?
So a lot of the filming is pretty set in stone, and that evolved over the first couple weeks. We initially didn't have the dice cams, and we originally had, I think it was 4 different cameras, one on each. So we had one on one side, one on another side, one on Jerry, and then we had a wide shot. And then we realized that it's much more interesting if the players, or excuse me, if the audience can see the dice rolls. So we ended up taking the wide shot away, and we put 2 dice cams up above. And so we constantly have those just always there, right? Those are always set up. And a lot of that is Hyper's equipment and ours mixed in together. And then we just set up the table every week, right? So that's kind of default. But then when I found out that we were going to have Mike be the DM, and he said that he had a board, my immediate thought was, well, we still want to have the dice cams, but we also want to have a table cam because he's going to create something that the audience should see. So we immediately just, coordinated with Hyper and said, this is what we need. This is when we need it. Whenever we have guests, we make sure that we have our overlays set up and made before that day. So it's just kind of like, constantly we just figure out what's different this week. What do we need to accommodate it, right? But for the most part, when they're coming up with ideas, basically Eric Benson and Jerry get together and they write the story, and that doesn't really mess with the technology too much. I think the only time we've ever had to change it was for my Crewhooks game. So it's pretty straightforward for the most part now that's all set up, which is nice.
But even then, like, it's a far cry from like what streaming used to be, with just like, here's my camera and here's the thing I want to film. Yeah. Like, I can't even like, and because like, especially with the dice, because the dice cams aren't necessarily on the screen the entire time,
right?
And like, you've gotten really good at catching these dice, because someone could just tuck it, like, just nonchalantly, like, it's not like, okay, hold for the dice cam and now I'm rolling the die, like,
yeah.
Like getting these, like, are you hands-on with like the actual production of it, like, cutting to different shots and things like that?
Yeah, so that isn't me, actually. That's one of the people who works at Hyper, Hyper RPG. They sit behind the computer, and basically Josh Price, who works at Penny Arcade, would be the other person to man that if Hyper wasn't here. They basically keep an eye on who's talking and when they're going to roll. And before we implemented the dice cams, we asked all the players, before you roll, please say some kind of cue like, I'm going to roll for this, or we asked Jerry to say, hey, Kate, please roll me this. And as soon as the person behind the computer hears roll, they jump on the dice camera and waits for that roll to happen. So we kind of have weird audio cues that allows people to jump on whenever it's necessary, right?
It's such a neat thing to hear. Like, the fact that we need a dice cam because we're playing Dungeons and Dragons live on the internet. It's neat. What were you going to say, Elyssa?
No, and actually to that point, sometimes I have this moment, and this moment happens actually quite frequently, maybe once or at least twice a week, where I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is my job. I just talked about the Valley, and I just talked about D&D for a solid hour because this is what I do for a living. So
Right? It's
it kind of
not everyone gets
throws.
to like, oh hey, can you come in early to work because I need to play test this version of D and
To
D,
file
and
your TPS report. Oh no, we're gonna play.
I need you to come in and play
Exactly.
test this.
Yeah.
I can't think of a way like, God, yes, give me the overtime. You don't even need to pay me. But um, as far as like the production goes, I mean, it's really it's top tier because like, and especially with this genre kind of like exploding. Because there's especially with hyper RPG. I remember just one night casually. Um, it was late. It was like 2 in the morning, I think. No, it was probably like around midnight. I was like, oh, hey, hyper RPG's streaming a Star Wars RPG game. I'm gonna go check that out. And like, I didn't recognize too many people on the cast, but like I know one of them. I was like, hey, that's Keith Silverstein. I know him
Yeah.
because he voices Torbjorn, and he was on our show once.
That is so cool.
And like even then, I was like, what is this game? I've never seen this game. Like I've seen the game, but I've never seen people play it.
Yeah.
And like it's a different type of it's a different universe, but it's also still role playing, but it's different dice and things like that. So you see this genre, you know, it's really getting huge. How
Yeah.
do you and the folks with the C team like keep it competitive? I guess.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, and to that point, I think Twitch has really made a lot of role-playing games in general just so accessible to the community. Like a lot of people had this weird feeling that they, because they didn't have, you know, people immediately available to play these games, that they couldn't ever be part of these communities. And I think Twitch has really made it so that role-playing games, tabletop games in general, are becoming more of a mainstream, something that you do to just tune in and hang out with people and bond with people over these games that are being played. So I think that's super awesome. But to your question with the C team, um, are you so? Are we talking about like how does it stay competitive with the other tabletop games, or?
Kind of like both. Like with all the different shows out there. With like the live streamed, role playing and things like that. As far as getting people to tune into yours specifically.
Yeah.
Do you ever like struggle with that, or is it just like you have your fan base, that fan base is great, and like people like me who never shut up about it, they're gonna get their friends to tune in, things like that. Is it because like from
Yeah.
what I've seen, I think viewership is like has really picked up at least the past couple weeks from what I've seen like on Twitch and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so, gosh. So I went to the Stream of Annihilation event that WotC put on,
Mm.
and being at an event with dozens of people who also stream D&D, I think it really gave us a sense that it's not necessarily about trying to perform as well as this group or that group. It's about how can we as a community bring tabletop and RPG. I was going to say RPG games, but that's redundant. Our role-playing games and tabletop games to the forefront, and how can we do that together? So we were talking about a lot of cross-collaboration with a lot of these other streaming groups, and I think that's super awesome,
Mm.
and honestly very inspiring. And in a way, how I think a lot of the groups see it, Dice Camera Action, Critical Role, C Team, like how we see it is that we all bring different flavors of D&D to an audience, and we do so to show how amazingly different your experience can be jumping from one game to another.
Mm.
And the neat thing about AC Inc. or the C Team is that while so many other D&D games or role-playing games bring a sense of like seriousness to the table, how we're different is through humor, right? How we have a lot of interesting and intense moments, but we're also very much about how can we make this lighthearted and kind of silly and relatable, where we want everyone to feel like their character is represented on at the table. So it's a weird amount of collaboration that we see in our industry, and I think it's super neat.
That might be why, like, because our D&D game personally, like, there's a lot of oh, I almost cursed really bad there. There's a lot of screwing around. You know.
Oh, can we not curse on this?
Well, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I used to have a pretty bad habit of cursing on the show, and I realized that it might turn people off. Actually, I didn't realize it was brought to my attention, and then I realized how wrong I was. But you know, like, it's definitely our game is definitely lighthearted. It's not like, you know, we are in character. Because I am also like Ryan. I am also a Dragonborn. You know, and it's not like I am a barbarian. I am a Dragonborn. I need to stay in that role the entire time. I need to use a fake voice when I play. You know, like, I'm just not good at that. I'm not very good at role playing. I like fighting. I like fighting with my battle axe.
You like fighting?
Yes.
Well, like you're saying, everyone can do it differently.
Yeah.
And like one of the things I've explained a couple of times, but I don't want to like infect one game with another game's attitude. Mm. So when we play in our game with Joe, one of our frequent guest hosts, there's, like Jared said, there's a lot of screwing around. There's a lot of like, we're making jokes, joke this, you know, like we're joking around for 10 minutes before Joe finally is like, okay, time for the timer.
Yeah, he puts the timer out, or he like, okay, so you were gonna fight this thing, but now it's a bigger thing.
But whereas when I played with my friend Will, like if one of us said something to be a goof, Will's like, roll it. Now you said that, and if it's your bluff or diplomacy check, amazing. It's now a thing. It's like, I didn't mean it. He's like, well, start rolling because you said it, so it's a thing. Roll your bluff. And
you're
like,
on the clock here.
Seriously.
And suddenly it's like, I'm gonna watch what I say, and like the game kind of moved faster that way.
Right.
But there was a bit more stress involved.
Yeah, and you see, I don't see either of those approaches as necessarily wrong, right? They're just new experiences. So I think that's the beauty of D&D personally.
Yeah, like you never, like, different people are gonna run different games. You know, Ack Inc. has like, it's like a mix of both role playing and just, it's really funny. It's lighthearted. It's, I don't know, I dig it a lot. But yeah, we tend to gush.
So, okay, I dig it too. We're good.
With Hyper, because, like, you know, Penny Arcade has had this massive stream initiative, you know, that you've mentioned a couple times. You know, you guys have been streaming daily, I believe, from like the Penny Arcade channel. Just different people streaming different games. You know, sometimes the War Machine streams have been super interesting. Like, I have never played that game before. I have no idea what's going on, but I can't stop watching those streams. And like, sometimes it's Hearthstone with these people who are at Penny Arcade. Like, you guys have really like amped up the streaming there. And then, you know, with Hyper RPG, like, what's where'd that connection come from? Like, where'd that relationship start with Hyper RPG?
You know, so Hyper RPG had already moved in by the time that I had started here, but I know that Hyper RPG I think launched, I think it was 2 years ago, I believe. And so they had a pretty big presence in the Seattle area, and they had Death from Above, and still do, obviously, have Death from Above. And their back end for that game was just very impressive. And so when we were starting to talk about, you know, Penny Arcade should have more of a streaming presence, and we want to be more we want to be more accessible to the people who enjoy our content, and so we can have that, you know, shared conversation. So when we started that initiative, what I believe happened was we saw the impressive back end of Hyper RPG's shows, and we thought, we can do this with Acquisitions Incorporated, and we'd love to collaborate on it. And so from what I understand, we created a pretty tight-knit partnership, and now they have they oftentimes will rent our studio space, and they leave a lot of their equipment in our studio, and so we have they use our space and we use their equipment, so it's a pretty good partnership there. And we do stream daily, and so that's been a pretty big initiative. And then on top of that, we've been trying to stream more tabletop games as well, because, you know, in my opinion at least, and I don't know if Penny Arcade can attest to this too, but tabletop is one of the biggest aspects of gaming. It's just not represented as largely as a lot of digital games. So I think that's been really neat to see Penny Arcade jumping in on that. So
Plus, it can probably be. I mean, I imagine there's a lot more involved with streaming a tabletop game because, like, if you're streaming a video game, you don't even need a camera. Like, if you don't want to like have your face there, like
Yeah.
you can just
yeah,
here's the game I'm playing. I'm broadcasting straight from my PC. Watch me play. Subscribe, like, subscribe, share, all that. Whereas with like streaming a table, like you need the visuals. Like there are digital versions of like D&D. I haven't found them too gripping myself, like seeing the people there like actually rolling the dice, role playing the character. Like I find that a little bit more enticing, I guess.
yeah.
But like with that, you're gonna have a production, you're gonna need cameras, you're gonna need a good this is so lame, a good computer. But like
Pictures of glasses.
exactly. Oh, she gets it. But there's a lot more involved. So like even just someone trying to start up, you might need some. I mean, then again, no one said that quality has to be great. Like if you want to start your own thing, just grab a camera and start streaming.
Like I'm sure this kind of thing started with people, like aiming their laptop over their map.
Right.
Yeah, and in all honesty, it's been pretty awesome to see how tabletop streaming has evolved. Like people just continuously have better and better ideas for how we can represent it on screen, right? While still maintaining that sense that you're there at the table with them. So I think it's rad.
Yeah.
So does what was it called?
Does what?
The film company.
Hyper RPG?
Hyper.
Yeah.
Does Hyper, so they have all the equipment and like the cameras and programs, or because like, so we have plenty of friends who are into production and filming and our one of our favorite people, Bob Savage. Like I was like, because he fell in love with C-Team and he approached us. He's like, they do some good stuff. And he's like, I have some great ideas. And I was like, Bob, do you have any questions for?
Yeah, we have some write-ins
for our guests. And like he's done some projects with us. Like I can't give Bob enough credit because he's pushed us to be better in a bunch of aspects. But
Oh, that's awesome.
so he was wondering a few things. So when the camera switches from players to the dice rolls and whatnot, like what kind of program is being used to manipulate all that?
Yeah, so we use Wirecast. So basically just the normal streaming software for that. But we have some pretty good cameras set up, and we have a soundboard and switchers, so we have a pretty big setup behind the scenes, and I know that the person running that behind the scenes is pretty on top of just switching those around. But we do use Wirecast for most of that, and then with the tracking the bits and meters and stuff like that, HyperRPG has created some pretty lofty backend for that that's integrated into the Twitch interface that we have.
So,
Damn.
so it's not like an intern counting votes or anything. Like there's a program that does it for you.
There's an algorithm that was custom
We
made.
have a pen and paper tallier. Someone who sits behind just creates tallies of them.
That's a lot of
It's
bits.
a real time sort of thing. No, yeah, it's all digitally done, and we have a pretty good system that brings in metrics for bits and for those meters in particular, and we have something that tracks the hashtags that are the commands that are used within the Twitch chat. So and then basically with the poll system, for example, we have the poll system running from 3:30 to 4:30 Pacific time. And then once that shuts down, which is done by a mod, they shut that down, and then the results immediately are sent to Jerry's iPad. And then that's when he can integrate whatever results he receives from that poll. And so we have a pretty I guess well-versed backend that allows for us to kind of track everything without having to pull our hair out too much.
So there's so much going on now. Is that stuff that had been decided early on, or something that you worked into, or like?
So that's kind of why we initially had a pretty big partnership with Hyper RPG is because they had created such an amazing back end to this. And so we were interested to see how far we could go with Ack Inc. on that, and we're still kind of breaking it out and expanding upon it. But then when it came to the poll, we didn't have that in place when we started the stream. We've been kind of integrating this as we go, and as we go, we realize like we like to have more interaction between the audience and the table, and how can we make that happen? So we'll say, why don't we do a poll, or why don't we do a giveaway, and then we figure out how that works, and then about a week or two later it's just a part of the stream, and then it becomes natural. But usually like the first time that we launch something, it's always a little wobbly, where we're like, is this how it's supposed to go? You know, when do we shut it down, when we start it? And it's just kind of like a trial and error kind of sort of thing.
Right.
One of my favorite results or things that came out of C Team, rather, and you briefly touched on it a while back when we first started, Elyssa, was obviously like the fans are very passionate, and it's turned into it makes me mad that I'm not an artist, because there's the fan art for C Team is amazing.
It's phenomenal.
And it
blows me away.
Right? Like, I remember after like the first episode, you know, like Jerry and everyone was like, they're like, oh man, look at it. They're like, I can't believe that this art is amazing. Why would you do art over a thing like it's just a little C-Team thing, you know? And then it just started like flooding in, and to the point where you guys in the team, like, you show it during like commercial breaks and like in between the show and table talk. It's like, if you want your art featured, you know, you can like, and it's just all these different artists with their interpretations, and like some of them, like a lot, actually all of them are just unbelievable. It's amazing to see, like, it, you know, things like that. Was that ever expected? Is that just one of those?
I mean, it's been a whirlwind, in all honesty. And at first, we started seeing this fan art that would come in, and we'd be like, "Geez, this is amazing! People are spending time on this, and you know, this is blowing us away." And then more and more started coming in, and even to this day, like, even though we receive so much fan art, we talk about it in the studio just constantly. It's like, "Oh, did you see this piece? Did you see this piece?" And so it's been pretty amazing. And then we also have a subreddit that fans have created, and you know, someone is accumulating a portfolio of all the fan art as well. And so when it first started coming in, we thought, well, how can we show our fans that we appreciate this to no end, that we are just so excited about this, and you're almost feeding our excitement to make this content now. And so we thought, well, we could you know, try to showcase it on the stream before the stream starts and after. And then we had a deal with Twitch where we needed to where we needed to break for ads in order to support the show as well. And so then we realized that's the perfect time to showcase as much art as possible, because this stuff is way too impressive to not show it off, right? So then that's when I started reaching out to a bunch of artists, and I even have a spreadsheet just filled with all of the art. Like about once every 3 weeks, I'll sit down and just, you know, document all art that comes in through Twitter with the hashtag CTeam. And I'll link to it, and I'll write down all of the artist's name and link to their site and everything, just to make sure that we have it. And then I'll write down that we reached out to them, and if the artists are okay with us using it and they give us the credits that they want us to use, we'll then put it into the rotation. And we change that rotation about once every 2 months or so, or at least add to the rotation. So it's been a wild experience, in all honesty, and I totally understand when you're like, I wish I could be an artist, because I'm like, I wish I could be an artist, because that's amazing.
I partially want to go on like a negative guy rant and be like, you give credit to artists? You're just supposed to steal it and post it because it's free. It's like, but no, that's perfect.
That's the right way.
It's the way you're supposed to do it. And I'm really glad. It's like, yes, they deserve recognition, and it's awesome that they're getting that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's in all honesty, I am very proud to work at Penny Arcade, especially for that reason, because Penny Arcade is all about supporting local artists. And as soon as we had the opportunity to support them, I sat down with the amazing design team that we have here, and they said, this is what artists want, because they're artists as well. And they say, you need to have their permission before we post it. And if so, like, how do we ask for content or to use content that they made for free and that we are, promoting?
Right.
So
yeah.
in a way, like, we had this kind of we had this debate of, do we ask them to send us high-res files because that's asking for more work for something that they're doing for free?
Yeah.
And we realized that, in all honesty, most artists want us to show off their content in the best way possible. So why not just, ask, just request it? And if they say no, then they say no. But everyone has just been amazing. They said, yes, here's all of our high-res files. Please, please, please use this credit. And they've been just so, gracious with their work. It's been amazing.
It's funny how the people that want to support something, they get to do that. But we've also seen plenty of times where there's like I think HBO was an example of one of like, we're having a contest and send in your art and you might get recognized. You might get $100, and it's like, you're just asking for free work. Why don't you pay an artist for work? And they're like, oh, but it's a contest. Exposure dollars.
Yeah, we do not do that for a reason, because like even our artists on staff say like that's not something that artists typically like,
Right.
Yeah.
And we want to represent them and promote them because, they're excited about our work, not because we're trying to incentivize them with a potential to be on.
Right.
If that makes any sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and in all honesty, like, our community has just been amazing. So I think we're all pretty blown away by it.
It's really, and like I said, like, past couple weeks I've been noticing like viewership up, like in at least, like 15 in the thousands, which is just rad. Because again, like you mentioned earlier, like, it's these people are playing D&D, like live for an audience, and thousands of people are like, I want to watch this because I like D&D. It's aside from all the other horrible things that happened, especially today, really great day for the country. It's like stuff like that. It's a great, even just like as an escape, like I can go and watch these people that I admire do the things that I like. It's one of those happy things.
Yeah, and as an avid D&D fan myself, I started when I was 17 years old, and seeing how Dungeons and Dragons has had such a vast impact on our culture and community as a whole is pretty phenomenal, and seeing it grow and become mainstream is honestly the best thing that could have ever happened to at least my personal hobby life, right?
Right.
And I can't imagine what it would have been like, a decade or two ago when D&D wasn't cool. But, in the mainstream community, at least, now that it's become more mainstream, it's like finally we can have these conversations of how does it affect us in a multitude of ways. How does D&D affect us, personally, emotionally, psychologically, even in health ways. It's amazing how these stories are all just popping up and everyone can start attesting to how it's affected them.
It's their outlet. People need, imagination and fantasy and
even just like as like a lot of artists, like when Mike made Wizard Cart, like he made the character pieces for like everyone, and like just the little bits like Ryan and how he like punched through with his feet, and it was like the Flintstones, like just like stuff like that. Like I wish I could do that. Like instead I went and bought unpainted pieces from my local like hobby shop. Like here's your barbarian guy. I'm uncreative, but
yeah, and now there are even more miniature manufacturers who are making it easy to customize your own and make your own. Like Ryan came in earlier this week with a new Donar Blitzen miniature that he had customized online and ordered.
It's a beautiful world sometimes.
Right?
But
It's like the best time to be a nerd.
it really
It is.
It really is, and it's amazing. It's like we have a Comic-Con coming up in a couple weeks, and then we got it's and then New York, and then Unplugged, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But
Like, I just don't know how people didn't live in this time.
right.
This is amazing.
And like you mentioned, you've been playing, since 17. When D&D quote wasn't cool. You actually used to, before we run out of time, I definitely want to hint on this, or at least touch on it here. But you actually used to work for Wizards of the Coast,
Yeah.
or WotC, as the informed people call it.
Where's the E come from? What?
What? Well, it's like the C. WotC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we say WotC.
Yeah.
We say WotC or Wizards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, Alex.
I'm like Wizard of the
Jeez.
Coast.
I just pushed up my glasses again, so there's that.
I'm getting whacked. I don't.
Hey, man.
Well, I'm not one of the cool kids apparently.
Try and
I'll
try
keep
and
up. I'll keep up.
So, coming from, like, you used to work at, for Wizards, you used to work like exclusively like with this game. Like, can you, getting into the business, that type of job, and where it led you, to your gig at Penny Arcade, like, can you speak to that, like what it was like, coming up playing this game, in a, quote unquote, when it wasn't cool, things like that, because
Okay, don't quote me on that.
well, no, like, when it, because it's definitely had like an explosion, over the past couple of years. But even a couple of years ago, before I played, it was D&D. Who cares about D&D? It's
Yeah.
I don't want to pretend. How about I go play a video game and I can, like, experience the action. Blah, blah, I was one of those idiots, and like now that I play it, I get it. I'm still not very good at it. I'm not very good at the role playing. I can't make decisions and I panic.
That's the best way to play.
But like, are you able to like speak about your time, like working, with this game, what that was like?
Yeah. So, to give some background, growing up, I was the kind of kid that walked around a forest with my little stick and acting like it was a sword. And so, like, to me, that was normal. And then I started playing D&D when I was 17. And even then, my parents were like, oh, this isn't, what are you doing? How did I raise a nerd? Kind of sort of thing. And that's coming from my father, who's like a Lord of the Rings historian. And then I went to school for media and communications and thought, I could get into video games, but that's something that everyone kind of says and then it doesn't happen. But I thought, like, I can make this happen. And so I started at a game studio that made children's HTML5 and app games for like Disney, Nickelodeon, Hasbro. And then I merged over to WotC. It was like, honestly, I applied. I didn't have any connection there whatsoever. And they brought me in for an interview, and I didn't think I had a single shot at it, but I got an associate producer position there. And I was working on the main TRPG. So at that point, I was starting, or we were finishing work on Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and we had just started the discussion of Volo's Guide to Monsters. And at that point, there was a big shift in the organization, and somehow I managed to stay as I became a producer of the TRPG, and so that was my job. And so I produced Volo's Guide and worked on a few other projects as well. I worked on some of the Extra Life projects. So we had the tabletop weekend 48-hour stream. I helped put that on, and then just did various projects on the team as well. But yeah, so working at Wizards was an absolute, it was an amazing time. It was a 1-year contract, and we were trying to figure out a way for me to stay on the team for a little bit longer, but we didn't have. We ended up not having the headcount, so I ended up finishing off my year. But the team is just absolutely amazing, just an amazing team. Everyone's so passionate about D&D. I think there are only about 20 people who work on it or who worked on it at that time. It's probably grown since then. And everyone there, like, D&D is where it is because of the passion that everyone brings to the table, right? So, and like daily, like the conversations were like, well, what kind of creature should we have here? And do we have a stat block for it? And what's the CR? And like, that was another one of those times I was kind of like, this is my job. Damn. Yeah, and so it was just an absolute whirlwind and a blast. And then Volo's Guide is obviously out at this point, and so it's very neat to have worked on a book that I can hold,
Yeah.
And then I also worked on I think I worked on like 7 novels when I was there.
Damn.
So like the R.A. Salvatore books and Ed Greenwood, I worked on those as well. Mm-hmm. So those were also kind of my projects. And then I finished off my year there, and then in between Penny Arcade and WotC, I kind of had a connection with Jeff, who is now my boss, or mentor. He doesn't like being called boss. He actually just walked by the window like 5 minutes ago and mouthed "You're fired" at me again.
Again, that's twice since we started talking.
Twice in one day. Yeah. So then I knew Jeff through different projects at WotC, and he said that they were looking to bring in a new project manager or producer, and that he would like for me to work on a project to kind of test the waters a bit. And then it turned out that they basically needed a project manager to coordinate Acquisitions Incorporated stuff. So C-Team, I'm starting to work on the live games and working on other projects with it as well. And then any other projects that came in, I'd help manage as well. So I did that test, the test run in December, and I created a pretty big project, and then was hired in January.
That's super rad. Because it's like...
Yeah.
Even like you mentioned, applying for the job at Wizards, like, not necessarily, thinking you'd really have a chance, like, just apply, like it goes to show, like,
try, yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? You could end up getting like a life-changing gig at like a dream job. It's fantastic. It's like, just apply.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't think I had a single shot at it. And to this day, like I asked the guy who hired me, like, why did you decide to hire me as opposed to someone that he knew? For him, it came down to, we want to have a project manager who enjoys D&D, but that, D&D wasn't their main reason for applying, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously it was kind of a dream job for me at that time. So
Right.
yeah. Anyway, I apologize for the long-winded.
No, it's great.
No, that's what we live for.
While you were doing the work then and while you're doing the work now, there's an element of like research that has to go into it. So how much would you focus on your project at hand compared to like, well, I should keep up on what's happening in media and communications and equipment, and I should keep up on maybe what other companies are doing with their games, and should we incorporate something or should we avoid other games so you don't copy it? Like, was there stuff that you would focus on, or just like, nose down into the book for what you were doing?
So are you talking about like with the stream just in general, or just other projects?
It's everything.
Everything. Okay, so gosh, it's a good question. So I follow some of the other D&D streams, and it's fun to watch exactly how they work with their technology, especially with some of the streams that are all offsite, and all of the players are offsite, and they Skype in. Like Dice Camera Action is very inventive with their stuff, and so like I worked on the Extra Life 48 Hours stream, and that actually gave me a lot of weird insight to how I thought that a stream should work. And so I thought about, the setup of the cameras and stuff like that, but that obviously didn't ultimately fall on me with the C team. That was a lot of that was on Josh, who works here, and then Hyper. And so we had almost a lot of people who would come in and give us their ideas of how they think, how they thought that we should set it up, and they had a lot of experience as well. So It was a very interesting collaborative experience. And to this day, like, we constantly come up with ideas for how we can integrate new technology. And we have an engineer on site who has great ideas almost always. And we have designers who constantly want to make it better. So it's kind of weird where, even though I can follow other streams and I can, follow technology and stuff like that, a lot of it ends up with me just making sure it happens and that I coordinate it, but with the ideas of other people, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
We have an amazing team here. So, like, I kind of always feel like more people, the better, that can bring more ideas, kind of sort of thing. And in all honesty, a lot of people come up to me, at different events, and they say, "Hey, have you thought about this?" And it's like, "No, I haven't. That's a fantastic idea." So I'm always up for recommendations and ideas.
Can you send me a high def file of that idea, please? And can I give?
I'll give you credit.
Can you give that to me in writing? So yeah, it's just super collaborative, and it's really neat to have a team to work with. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's a better answer.
With like you mentioned, when we were talking before show, there's coming up in a couple months. There's, in the span of 3 months, 3 or 4 months, there's 3 different PAX shows.
Yes.
Which is crazy. And like
you're telling me.
Exactly. With that coming up, I imagine there's plenty going on your table with PAX, in general, prepping for that. If there's going to be any C Team presence, blah blah blah. Are we still going to see, C Team moving forward as we get into that busy season, for Penny Arcade?
Yeah. So how this is basically how we've figured out how to make this work is, we are going to have, at the various PAXs, we will have C Team panels, and if a C Team member can't make it to the PAX itself, then they will just Skype in, and we'll do a Q&A and talk about the game itself. With the Thursdays before each of the shows, we won't be able to play or have a stream of a live C Team game. So we're going to basically run marathons of the C Team, previous episodes. So obviously before West, we will run the first few episodes during that time. Before Australia, which is in October, we'll continue on that marathon, and then same thing for Unplugged. So hopefully that'll keep people engaged. But we also have some exciting events coming up where C Team's going to make, or hopefully will make, an appearance. So we'll be announcing those pretty soon.
That's rad. I personally can't wait. I mean, unfortunately, I won't be able to make West because it's hundreds of miles in that direction, and tickets were gone pretty quickly. Tickets went on sale last month, I think.
Yes,
if I recall, and they were. I follow a couple subreddits, and they were all like, look at this tweet. Let's decipher this tweet. Does this mean tickets are going to go on sale at,
Believe me, I used to be a part of that group that would have a script running if anything changed on the Penny Arcade site.
That,
really?
Right? Like,
that's really deep.
Isn't it? Like, I remember 2 years ago, we've been fortunate enough to get, media passes for PAX and be able to cover the show in that vein. But previous years, like because East is one of those, like West, it's gone instantly, like just boom. Especially back when, because this year it was just the Friday, Saturday, Sunday badges. There wasn't a 3-day. That was this year, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And like tickets were gone immediately. There was just, it was poof, and then they go.
Insane.
I remember we were going out to get comics. It was a Wednesday afternoon.
We were visiting our friend John.
Like, oh hey, he's showing us his brand new apartment, and then it was
I like the way this started. It was an afternoon. We were all getting comics.
It was a Wednesday.
It was. We were in Manchester, Connecticut, and then suddenly Jared's like, "I have to go stand in a corner for a while."
Yeah. Well, I screamed, "I need a computer," because like like I saw the tweet like tickets were on sale, and like a couple people had texted me like tickets are on sale. Oh my god! Of course they'd waited until after they got theirs to text me, and it was like ordering tickets like desperately hoping my signal stays and like I can stay at like just
he stood in a corner while the rest of us talked.
before I even confirmed with like everyone else who I usually go with. It's like I just bought tickets for you, so if you want to go, please give me money.
Yeah, that's what everyone does. And also, I just want to put that out there. Do your friends know that ruins friendships for not telling you right away?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I think last time I bought ones, right?
That was on you because I had just started at my new job.
He was at a new job and couldn't use his phone,
which was like super
that's the worst.
right. It was super serious time at the new job. It was just not an option to be able to monitor.
So it was my job now. So
yeah, and you're sitting there sweating beads, and your hands are super clammy, and you're shaking.
So it's all on you.
I got up and left my work area and went out to my car because that's where I kept my wallet.
You doused yourself with some cold water.
Seriously, but it's also it's part of the. As weird as it is, it's part of the experience. It's so, and when you have it, it's like, yes, I'm going to PAX. It's going to be fantastic. With Unplugged coming up, it's going to be the first one ever. Really excited. And it's in Philly, which is, I need an excuse to go to Philly. I've never been to Philly. I've been to Gettysburg. I've never been to Philly.
Slightly different.
Right?
Just a little bit.
A little bit,
Yeah.
Less
south.
horrific wars.
You can talk in a louder tone in
right.
Philly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be all the tabletop. I think I might even be dragging. My wife might be humoring me, and because I think she also wants the opportunity to go to Philly too. But it should be fun. But yeah, I can't believe like all these PAX shows coming up. It's like so we're spoiled.
Many.
We're
yeah,
spoiled.
I'm so glad to hear you're going to Unplugged. It's going to be a great event. I'm so excited for tabletop.
Not only
PAX.
is it rad that it's like the first one, it's like I get to go to a first. I remember when they announced like East, and I was like, "What? PAX is only out there. It's never over here.
It's over
Surprise!
It's across the country."
Yeah, because that used to be at the Heinz where Boston Comic Con was for a couple years.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, if I recall right, I could be totally wrong, but I think it used to be at the Heinz.
Hey, I'll believe you. I didn't go the first couple years, so.
Right. Yeah. We've only known it at the BCEC, which, like we were telling you before, like we're going to be at a Comic-Con in that same building, and it's going to be really strange to not be like, okay, let's go line up front for Ek Inc. or for Make a Strip or whatever. Like it's going to be a totally. I'm really anxious to see how they fill that building because like I'm used to PAX filling that building, and they fill it.
Last time we had Jeff on, I told the story once we went off air that JR was embarrassing me as I was driving into Boston Comic Con, and we drove past the BCEC to go park at the Seaport World Trade Center because that's where the Boston Comic Con was happening. And
it's like right across the street.
It's like a block over, and like JR is pawing at the window, going, "PAX."
You're embarrassing me.
And I'm like, I'm driving, and I said,
So close, but so far away.
like, I feel like I'm driving a boy on his way to a date with my daughter, and he's whine crying an ex-girlfriend's name. And I'm like, but we're going to Boston Comic Con, and he's like, but PAX, and I'm like, but Boston Comic, and he's like, and like still like leaving streaks on my window, and I'm like, will you stop?
Hey man, it's fun. And it was only it was Boston's in August, and PAX that last year was in, or not this past year, the year before that was in April, so it was only 4 months out. It wasn't even like it was like
it wasn't even around the same time, but in spirit we were there.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's rad. I can't wait to check out all the live streams from West. I believe did Mikey Newman just announce that Movies with Mikey is going to be at West? I think he just announced it. I can't remember.
I believe he's actually in the office right next to me.
Right
what?
Now. That's because I thought he was up there because of my Twitter stalking. But
yeah, and he's actually going to be on the C team tomorrow.
What? Whoa. Has that been announced yet? I didn't even know about that.
It has been announced. So we announced it in early July. Basically what happened was I flew down to RTX and hung out with Jack Patillo and Katie Ward. And we do like a weekly D&D together, a D&D stream together. And so Mikey jumped on the stream and played the character that he was going to play for the C team, who is Kiwi Beestinger. And he's an adopted son of Rosie's. And so he's going to be on tomorrow, and it should be a blast. I'm really excited.
We're big fans of Mikey.
Yeah, big fans.
He's pretty cool.
he's a pretty funny guy, that guy. And also his YouTube show is unbelievable. His channel with Chris Stroud with Chainsaw Suit, it's super rad. Go check it out. We've gushed about Mikey Newman in the past, so I doubt people want to hear it again. But that's super. I can't wait to tune in tomorrow night. That'll be. I don't know if this will be up before then, so people will be like, "Wait, what tomorrow?" But either way, that's.
Yes, I should know that tomorrow is the 27th of July.
Right. But we have taken up a good chunk of your night, Elyssa. So I got to say thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure, and really I can't thank you enough for coming on and telling us about how cool it is to work with D&D. That's still like that's the dream right there.
This was amazing. Like I said to you before I jumped on here, I never get to talk about, behind the scenes C-team stuff. So this is an absolute pleasure from my end. And thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You can catch C-team every Thursday at, it was 6:30 Eastern or 3:30 Pacific. I have that right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I did it. I did it.
I'm sitting here doing the math.
It's a fun that we've had a couple people, from out west, and it's just like, I can do like 6 o'clock my time, and it's like, oh, okay, you got it.
That's almost bedtime over here.
But honestly, it's always worth it. But you can check out C-Team on the Hyper RPG Twitch channel. You can also check out the past episodes, the VOD, whatever you want to call it, on YouTube. Go back and watch all the past episodes, get caught up with all that story, because it's just fantastic. You can also view ac-inc.com, which is, in my opinion, one of the best websites on the internet. It's just, it brings me back to the old days. And especially with I think the best part of that website is the the viewer counter at the bottom, with Omen drawn like in the rotating caps and lowercase.
It's randomized.
Real? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Because right now, for me, it's showing 66,076,875 people. That's a lot.
Oh
of
no,
people.
I'm sorry. That's correct. That's it. That's the number.
Obviously, that has to be. But you can check out the website. You can check out all the characters, get the backstories. You can get the merch, which is just the Wizard Cop shirt to need. You can check out all that stuff, and then if you make it to a PAX, you can check out the live shows with AC Inc. Who knows what's going to be coming. You can check out the C-Team panels that are going to be coming up.
As soon as we sign off, I'm adding 2 coins to my coin collection. So.
Alex is a big fan of the coins, or like collecting. What do you call them? Chase coins?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Challenge coins.
Challenge. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, and I neglected to mention that they're available. But you can go check out the merch. You can check out the live shows, the panels, with all the upcoming PAXs. No matter where you are in the world, even if you're in Australia, you can check out all of that. You can check out Alyssa's baby with C-Team and everything that she has put together with that and her team. It's unbelievable. Alyssa, congratulations on all of the C-Team's success. I can't wait to see where this goes. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
But,
I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for all the work that you and your team have been putting into this, and making this stuff for us for free. Like I can just tune it. Exactly. But that's and again, like, you can support, you can show the bits, you can't show the bits. That was the worst.
Whoops.
We're gonna just pretend I didn't say that. You can give the bits. You can subscribe. Blah blah blah. All the good stuff. To the C-Team and show your support, and maybe make some art too if you're an artist. But Elyssa, again, this has been the longest signing off in the history of the show. Thank you so much again. It was a pleasure. Best of luck at the upcoming PAX shows, and hopefully I'll bump into you at East, or not East, East eventually, and at Unplugged.
Eastern Unplugged sounds great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So that is going to do it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Elyssa.
And this has been episode 280 of Opinions May Vary.